Okay.
This is great. And of course we've had a long day and a long day tomorrow, but I just want to double check. Did everyone have as magical of a day that I did today? Did you enjoy your day?
Yeah.
Good. Yes, I hope so. I think it was a wonderful day, and I've said it before, I'm so glad that these are our last ports, or our ports coming to an end of our journey, because they are so wonderful and so exciting. And by popular demand, we have a very special person, and she's become not only a friend to all of us, but part of our onboard family. And backstage, she's just so funny. She said to me, and I hope I say this right, that she has chutzpah. I'm trying. And I know what that means, and it's funny because when I thought of what I would say to introduce Libby today, I was going to tell you that I really admire people who take risks and who say, I'm afraid of something, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I can really relate to that, and it takes courage and chutzpah. So, if you call her Ibble, Nibble, Nibble, Ibby, I call her Libby, Libby from the, we all have, I think, our favorite nickname for Libby, but she is here tonight, and I want you to give her the biggest welcome for what she is about to do, not only because she's a talented performer, but also because she's one of our onboard family, and we're going to miss her very much. So without further ado, our comedy star of the evening, Libby Spirit.
Girl of them all, right? You know what chutzpah is. And I'm here because of you, because somebody encouraged me and told me that I was missing my calling. So I'm here to try to see if this is really my calling. And I have a choice, to flop or to hit. If it's a flop, I go into my room after and I stay there till tomorrow morning when you all clear the ship and I get off and I don't have to see you again. And if it's a hit, well, I have a choice of two things. Kara's going to take me on her next cruise. Aren't you, Kara? And I get to replace Jeff Mush's picture out there and put my own up and charge only $9.95. So those are two things to look forward to. Now, we talk about being a stand-up comedian. I never thought of myself as being a stand-up comedian. My boss, when I was an English teacher for second languages, told me that we were all frustrated actresses. So that's the closest I got to be a stand-up comedian. But when you talk about a cruise ship stand-up comedian, I think you really don't mean stand-up comedian. Can you imagine a stand-up comedian going through the Drake Passage? You remember that? That would be keel over, fall down, but you would never stand up. My mother was here, and if she were alive, she would want me to be a sit-down pianist, because that's what she wanted for me. I was her protege, and she took me around to everybody and said, play the piano, dear. She took me to every piano teacher in town, no matter what, and said, play for them. And finally, she got to the best of them all, and she took me there, and she said, dear, play for them. So I, after playing the Chopin Minute Waltz in only 52 seconds and 23 minutes, my mother crossed her arms and said, well, and this wise and wonderful piano teacher said, your daughter plays just like Isaac Stern. My mother, being quite knowledgeable, said, but Isaac Stern is not a pianist. And this woman says, and neither is your daughter. So, that's why I'm a stand-up comedian today and not a sit-down pianist. Now, this is not about me. This is about the passengers. But actually, before I begin with the passengers, a lot of you been to Egypt today, right? Yeah. I know a joke about two Americans that took a cruise down the Nile. And this boat capsized, and these two Americans were drowning. And all of a sudden, a few alligators started to swim toward them. And one American said to the other, gee, these Egyptians are not so poor after all. And so the other one says, why do you say that? He says, well, look, even their lifeboats are Lacoste. Sorry. But I decided that tonight is not about me, it's about you. And I have to tell you about, you don't have to be a stand-up comedian, you have to listen to people tell stories. Now, do you remember after we left Rio a long time ago, I was standing on the deck watching, saying goodbye to Rio, and this lady talked to me, and she said to me, that she was recently widowed before she got aboard. And she thought about her husband and said what a thoughtful and wonderful man he had been. He was even thoughtful and wonderful and considerate in death. You know, she said, he left me 3 envelopes. And in the first envelope I found $2,000 and it said, have a eulogy for me. And in the second envelope there was $5,000 and it said, pick out a nice coffin. And in the third envelope there was $20,000 and it says, buy a nice stone. And then she said, how do you like it? It was all arranged by George. Remember George? From H. Stern. Now, I have good news for you. We have in Israel H. Stern. All you ladies that missed out, we have H. Stern. I don't guarantee a shuttle getting there, but I'm sure if you buy, they'll shuttle you back to the ship at 17% discount for VAT. Yeah. So there you are. Now, that was the lady in Stern's. Now, there was, remember when we were in Santiago? Was that a long time ago? And we stayed in those beautiful hotels that were just like the ship? And, well, they were Encore. Remember that? There was not much difference. I think my cabin in the ship was bigger. But anyhow, one day after a hectic day of shopping, my husband and I decided to sit out by the pool, and there was this man sitting out there. We started to talk to him. And as we were talking to him, his wife appeared, and her hair was messed up in every direction, and her clothes were crumpled and creased, and he said to her, what happened to you, dear? She says, you won't believe it. He said, what happened? She said, well, 4 Chileans kidnapped me and raped me for 3 days. He said, but you've only been gone since breakfast. She says, yes, but I have to go back tomorrow and the next day. I think some of the people are sitting out here. You know, I'm not mentioning their names, and that's only to protect the guilty. But then, you know, there was another woman I met out on deck having lunch, and, you know, outside. And she told me about the visit she'd gone to with her husband to the doctor's office. And after the doctor had examined her husband, he said to her, I'd like to talk to you alone. She said, okay. She says, your husband is suffering from severe stress. And unless you can alleviate this stress, he won't live for 4 months. Now what you have to do is when you get him home, make him a nice healthy breakfast in the morning. Send him to lunch with the food that he likes, healthy food, good food. When he comes home, massage his back, put him in front of the television, let him watch the sports programs and whatever he wants. Don't burden him with chores. Give him a nice candlelight dinner. Have sex with him whenever he wants and however he wants. And if you can do this for 4 months, I guarantee your husband will overcome and he'll live. So on the way home, the husband said to his wife, what did the doctor tell you? And the woman said, he said you're going to die. I didn't have enough nerve to ask her if she was a widow. She got off in Santiago and I never found out. Does anybody know about this woman? I don't know. Now, speaking of doctors, you know, we're neighbors of the nice doctor down the stair, down on the sun deck. And every time I see him, I ask him how the passengers are. You know, I want to know what kind of germs are coming my way. We've got a few of them on this ship. And he told me a funny story the other day. He said that the day before, one of our gentlemen on the ship came down to the clinic and asked for 3 Viagra. He says, 3 Viagra? What do you need 3 Viagra for? He said, well, I've got 3 women lined up tonight. Oh, he was very, you know, impressed, this doctor. And then, oh, thank you very much. What are we going to announce? Right in the middle of the Viagra.
All visitors, please proceed ashore. All visitors, please proceed ashore. The Ocean Explorer is getting ready to sail. All visitors, please proceed ashore. The Ocean Explorer is getting ready to sail. Thank you.
Karen is so inconsiderate. Anyhow, what was I saying? So this man wanted 3 Viagra because he had 3 women lined up for that night. The next morning, the doctor got to his clinic, and waiting outside his door, our good doctor, was this man. And there he was, holding his hand like this. Can you all see? And he said, "What happened to you?" He says, "Not one of the women showed up." You've all probably read the news in the library. You know that newspaper, what do you call it, the U.S. News or something like that? You've probably read the story about the pharmaceutical van that was hijacked near Toronto. And all the Viagra was taken. It was a Viagra van. And you know, now the Canadian RCMP are looking for 6 hardened criminals. Other than that, have you ever noticed on this ship how many, I wish I could pronounce this right, octogenarians there are? People over 80 years old. I admire them, and I would like to think of myself in another 20 years doing what they do, traveling around the world, looking at life with optimism and being physically fit and well. Well, there was 2 octogenarian women that cornered one of their octogenarian men. That's a hard word for me to say. I'll say 80-year-olds. And they said, "Look, you don't bother with any of the women on the ship. There's so many of us. And we'd like to go out with you. You could take us out. You could take us dancing. You could take us for a cocktail. You could take us down to the movies, you know, the 3D movie house where you have sight, sound, and smell. But you could do all that and you don't bother with us." And he says, "You know what? You're right. Tomorrow I'm going to take you out, and tomorrow, and the next night tonight I'm going to take you out, and tomorrow I'm going to take you out." So I happened to get in on this at breakfast the next morning. And I was sitting with one, and the second one came down. She says, "How was your date last night?" He said, "It was fine." "What happened?" He says, "Well, he took me for a drink, and then we went to the movies, and then we danced a little bit, and then he took me to his room, and he threw me on the bed, and he tore off all my clothes, and he raped me." And the woman said, "My God, my God." She said, "I have to go out with him tonight. What am I going to do?" And the other one says, "Wear old clothes." But then the best one I ever had was in the dining room, the poem dining room. You know, we were sitting in one of those round tables.